Here's another quick QuickBooks tip: importing inventory items into QuickBooks Online. I'm in QuickBooks Online and I'm going to click on the gear menu on the top right of the screen, and then I'm going to click on where it says import data. Once I click on import data, it's going to give me a couple of options of all the type of transactions or the type of list items that we can import. And I'm going to choose products and services because inventory would be a product and service. Then in here, I'm going to click on browse to find the Excel or CSV file in my computer in which I have a list of inventory items to import. If I click on download sample file, you're going to get an Excel file that looks like this, that contains pretty much a template that you can use to import. And we're going to go ahead and use this template to create the import. I'm going to go back into QuickBooks Online, hit X for a minute, and then I'm going to go into the sales tab and then down into products and services so we can see the list of products and services that we already have. Right now, we only have a product called sales, which is actually a service called sales. So we're going to import a new list into here. Let's go back into the gear menu, import data, and then products and services. So we're going to import the Excel file there. We're going to open up the sample file that we're going to be working with as an example. And we're going to go ahead and delete this yellow one. That's basically letting you know this is just a sample. Go ahead and delete this before you start bringing that in. So I'm going to delete that. And then also I'm going to make all these inventory. Notice that here on the D column, on the fourth column, it says type. They all must be inventory for these to be an inventory import. So I'm going to go ahead and create all of them as inventory. And I'm going to change a couple of names here just to make them sound a little bit more like inventory. So I'm kind of creating some, let's call it some official names and numbers to these items. So we got the list of the items here. And then also notice that I have a group of items that contain a colon in between two words. And that implies sub-item or category. We'll discuss that in a minute. Then also under SKU number, let's give these, all of these, we're going to give them some random SKU numbers. So the SKU numbers import as well. And we're going to discuss that. And also notice that we have income account. Income account needs to match QuickBooks 100%. So I'm going to go back into QuickBooks and then I'm going to go into down here where it says accounting and then chart of accounts. I'm going to go into the chart of accounts and take a look at what my income account might look like in which I want to send that item into. So I'm going to scroll down, look at my income accounts, and notice I got an account called net sales. So we're going to go ahead and send it to net sales. So we're going to come up here and go into income account and just type net sales. And then I'm going to copy and bring that down. Then I'm going to scroll over to the right and see what else do we need to fill in. We got a couple of descriptions here. I'm just going to fill it in with data. Also, we're going to assume that you have an Excel spreadsheet that's pretty complete. I'm going to add a couple of cost items here. So we're going to add cost to all of these. And also the expense account. The expense account, I'm going to go back into QuickBooks, is generally a cost of goods sold account. So we got an account here called cost of goods sold. We'll just send it to that category. So we'll just type there cost of goods sold and spell goods correctly. That's really important. It needs to be spelled exactly as we have it in QuickBooks. I'll copy that down and notice that we have some quantity on hand. So I'm going to put 0 in some of them, assuming that some of them don't have quantities on hand. So I'm going to put quantities on hand in some and 0 in others. On the reorder point, let's put 5 for all the missing ones. And then we're going to see what that looks like. And then we have inventory asset account. So we're going to go back into QuickBooks and scroll up to our current assets and see if we have anything for inventory. I don't think we have, or do we? Yeah, right here. Inventory asset. So we're going to make sure that that is spelled correctly in our Excel spreadsheet. Bring that in there, bring that all into inventory asset, copy that down, and then quantity as of date. That's if you are going to bring in brand new inventory parts with beginning balances, you have to tell QuickBooks as of what date you want the beginning balance to be entered or adjusted in the system. So I'm going to select 12/15/2020. Let's assume that that's the day that we are bringing those inventory items as of that date. Let me just copy these down, make sure that it all contains the same date. So I think this is good. I think the spreadsheet is complete. We might get an error on the import, but we'll see. But let's start with that. So let me go ahead and save that. And I'm going to go back into QuickBooks, click on the gear menu, click on import data, click on products and services, and then select browse. We already have a spreadsheet that we basically built from the sample data. And I'm going to find my spreadsheet in my computer, wherever I happen to have it. Click on open, and that should load up the file. And then we're going to click on next on the bottom right of the screen. And then it's going to ask me, hey, you want to make sure that your QuickBooks mapping matches your Excel mapping. Because I use a sample spreadsheet, all these headers that you see here on the first row, all these headers are already going to match the QuickBooks header. And notice that the names are pretty much identical. If you're using your own type of spreadsheet, not the built-in sample, you're going to have to go through this and map each of these with the actual column that you have in your own spreadsheet. So for example, if this income account actually was called sales account, then you would see sales account up here instead of income account. And then you would be connecting your income account with your column called sales account. That's pretty much what it means. But because we used the sample file, which I always recommend using, this mapping will all happen automatically because all these headers on the first row were kept intact for QuickBooks to read it correctly. So then I'm going to go ahead and click on next. And on the next screen, QuickBooks is going to say, okay, I loaded all the information in there because these are inventory items. We're going to make them sellable. We're going to make them buyable, and also tracking for inventory. If this didn't read the account correctly somehow, then we're going to select the correct category. So notice they didn't like net sales, the top category. Is asking me to select an actual, basically sub account. So I'm going to fix it here. So I'm just going to fix it from here. So it's simple. And I could change this later after the imported, but for now, I'm just making sure there are no red errors per se, and all the data is being read exactly as created. So it looks like all the data is being read. Hopefully we won't get any more errors at this point, and we'll go ahead and click on import. Okay, so let's see what happens. That was imported. Let's go back into sales and products and services. And we're going to see that all of our products were created. And notice that there's what looks like one called gardening supplies as a service. I wonder how that happened. And then we have rocks and soil. I'm going to open it and see what that looks like. And they're set up as a sub product or a sub item of that. So that's basically the concept of subcategories. So it was very strange that the parent category is a service. That's pretty strange, but I guess it allowed me to do it. But basically what this says is we're not going to be using gardening supplies at all. We're going to be using rocks and soils, which are subcategories of gardening supplies. Either way, to avoid any confusion, I'm going to go ahead and change the type of this to an inventory to make sure that the subcategories rocks and soils are going as a subcategory of the correct of an item that kind of follows the same type. So I'm going to put quantity on hand 0 as of date 12/15/2020, and reorder point, we'll leave that there and click on save and close. So now I got my main category, which was basically forced into QuickBooks because we had those columns. Just go back and show you that for a second. We had that column between it, and we didn't have a separate line for gardening supplies telling QuickBooks what that was going to be called or what type of item that was going to be. So QuickBooks just created it as a service item, which is kind of like a glitch, but at least it lets you know what you could be expecting if you're missing that parent category. So I can go in any of these, click on edit, and I can see the SKU number has been loaded. We have the inventory asset account. We have the description. We have the sales price. We have the income account that we had to fix afterwards. We got the cost. We got the expense account. There was nothing on the preferred vendor. That's why none of that stuff has been brought in. And also, it'll be important to know the transaction that was created when you loaded those initial inventory quantities. So I'm going to click on the magnifying glass here, and I'm going to click on any of these transactions that say inventory starting value start. I'll click on that, And notice that there's a transaction called inventory starting value, in which the item itself has been selected, in this case a garden supplies item, with zero initial cost, affecting my opening balance equity. This one happened to be a cost of zero, but let me click on a different one so we can see maybe something that has some sort of cost. And notice that this one is $50 times 110. That's actually going to post a transaction into our book. So I'm going to click here on transaction journal so we can see what that means. And basically we get to see the equivalent of a journal entry of QuickBooks loading up or increasing our inventory asset for $5,500, and then the balancing account for all beginning balances is going to be this opening balance equity account, which is probably something you don't want. So I'm going to go into my reports, and then I'm going to go into my balance sheet. This is more of an advanced concept, but if you're an accountant, this will resonate with you. When you go down and you see opening balance equity here, I'm going to click on that number, and you will notice that I have multiple transactions in there from other beginning balances I created. But notice that all these on 12/15 are generating an increase to our net asset of about, let's change the date of this to 12/15/2020 and 12/15/2020, which is that as of date. So we can see just that dollar amount, and notice that that inventory import basically generated an entry for $7,955. So if you know what to do with that entry, like making a journal entry against cost of goods sold or against retained earnings, you can do that simply by creating a journal entry by going into new and then journal entry. And let's assume we're going to send that back to cost of goods sold. So we're going to make a journal entry on 12/15. We're going to start with opening balance equity. I forgot what the dollar amount was, $7,950. And we have cost of goods sold, but I'm not sure if that number is right, so we'll go back and check that. I'm going to click on save, X that out, and okay, so it was a $5 difference. So I'm going to click on the magnifying glass, open that transaction again, and put $7,955, right? And just a quick reminder, this part is kind of the more advanced part. This is stuff that accountants do, which is making sure that there's no remaining balances in that opening balance equity account, but it might be a requirement for you to clean up those beginning balances, because generally speaking, you don't want any type of balances in opening balance equity. That's a temporary account that is being used to make those adjustments, and looks like my journal entry was done backwards, which is why that's not netting to zero. So I'm going to click on this transaction here so I can open it. So I'm going to go ahead and open it and correct it. And I was really meant to do a debit for opening balance equity and a credit for cost of goods sold. So I'm flipping the sign in this case because I made the mistake while recording the video. And then we go back into this report and this got zeroed out. So the very first part is all you need to know if you're not the accountant type. That second journal entry, I think, was crucial for you to get that done. So anyway, I hope that you like this video, and I'll see you on the next one.